this is incredibly frustrating. Now, my initial thought is I was lied to. Now, time out. I know there's some of you that might not know what I'm talking about. So the news this morning is that, guess what? That new Tensor G6 CPU that we all could not wait to get our hands on, that's what we thought was the United States' very first 2 nanometer chipset. That's a big deal. Like, that's a huge deal. It's not. I did try and do my homework. So I was like, you know what? I was like, did Google lie to us? My wife was saying, you know what? I think Trevor Noah, on the launch of the Pixel, she was saying, I think he said 2 nanometer, because she watched some of it, but you know, who watches that? It's it's embarrassing. It's really ridiculous at this point. She could have sworn he said that, and I said, damn. I said, all right, well, now I'm gonna be forced to watch this. So while I was eating breakfast, I was like, oh, I'll turn it on to do research for the show. So I not only watched it in like 2x, where he's like, blah, 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 but I also read the transcript. Now, technically, he didn't say this is your first 2 nanometer. Now, if you go and ask Gemini will tell you that, yes, Trevor Noah asked whoever he was sitting next to, oh, and this is your first 2 nanometer chipset, isn't it so delightful? And Gemini will tell you, yes, he did. And that's when I was like, ah, crap. Well, now I got to go watch it. And what I was going to do is clip that where he said that, and where the Google person, the Pixel person sitting next to him agreed, yeah. I was going to clip that and put that on our show for today and be like, shame on you, Google. I couldn't find it. Now, maybe they said it outside of the launch event. I don't know. I'm also have a side, or not a side business. I also have a business that I'm running, so I couldn't literally spend hours searching and digging for an announcement from Google, or if Trevor Noah mentioned it and Google just shook their head and agreed. You know, they're like, oh yeah, I couldn't find that. So technically, was Google lying to us? No, at least I couldn't find anything. And that's about an hour digging on the internet, doing some research, watching some videos, going through transcripts. I could not find anything. But I think we have been misled at the very least. Now, I think some of these online publications are to blame, because you can go pull articles from WCCF Tech, you can go pull articles from Android Headlines, you can go pull articles from 9 to 5 Google, you can go pull articles from Android Authority. And yes, there's a ton of articles online saying this is the first 2 nanometer chipset and blah, blah. There's stacks on stacks on stacks of online articles saying this is 2 nanometer. So technically, I guess Google didn't lie to us. Now, I don't know if those publications, I tried to find their source. Okay, so why are they saying this? Where is their information? Why are they telling us it was a 2 nanometer chipset, right? Still kind of vague. Now, I came across something, and I will credit WCCF Tech as probably my favorite online publication, because let me pull something up on the screen, and once you see this, it all starts to make sense. So were we lied to? Maybe. Were we misled? Yes. Big time. So look at this, and I'll do some explaining, but let me pull this up. So here's WCCF Tech. They're a really good publication. Can everybody see that? So check this out. It says the company has mentioned that the Tensor G6 GPU delivers up to 20% better power efficiency, and while this claim could mean a better manufacturing process, meaning a smaller node, you need to be reminded that Google removed one CPU core from the configuration. It's no longer an 8-core CPU, it's a 7-core CPU. which would lead to better battery life at the expense of multi-core performance. It says, to be fair, it's understandable if Google sticks with TSMC's 3 nanometer process, since not only does the company ship a smaller number of Pixel smartphones each year, but choosing TSMC's 2 nanometer lithography would make little sense from a financial perspective. The Mountain View behemoth doesn't target peak performance or record efficiency with its Tensor G6, so adopting the 2 nanometer node would be a wasteful decision. So let's break it down in reverse order. The smaller node, as far as the smaller node, if Google produced or purchased their chips from Google designs them, TSMC manufactures them, puts them together. If they have an agreement with TSMC to make a chip that Google designed on a 2 nanometer chipset, that is the absolute most cutting edge CPU technology that TSMC can offer. Now, they're currently working on 1.4 nanometer, but they're not, these things take years in advance to design, develop, for it to progression. So we're not going to see 1.4 nanometer probably for another couple of years, but 2 nanometer, this was supposed to be the very first one. And it is very expensive. If you want the absolute cutting edge, latest technology, it's going to be pricey. Now, everybody knows the price of memory done shot up, and some companies are cutting corners, not including the very best specs, because they still want to make a profit on these phones. So that would make sense of why Google probably didn't do the 2 nanometer, but why were we led to believe this was a 2 nanometer? Well, this kind of makes sense because leading up to this point, we got word that, it's going to have 20% better power efficiency. Normally, when you see those numbers in power efficiency, 20% year over year in power efficiency, that means that typically you have reduced the size of the node that the chipset sits on. Those are the typical efficiency gains you see when you go from a 6 nanometer to 5 nanometer, 5 nanometer to 4 nanometer, 4 nanometer to 3 nanometer, 3 to 2. See what I'm saying? So we didn't even question, because I've seen this months ago where you hear little things are here, or a story will come out here about the G6, and like, well, damn, it's got a 20% power. That sounds typical if you're reducing the node size, right? So I guess we just thought all along this was going to be a reduction in chipset size. Well, how they got 20% better is by taking out a whole core in the CPU. That's why we are not seeing big gains on the benchmark scores. That's why we're not seeing big gains in single core. That's why we're not seeing big gains in multi-core. They're running on 7 cores. So it's like, it's like the cover's been taken off. It's like the curtains have been pulled back. Today it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, well, no shit. That's why. Duh. But I don't, and of course, we're not about performance. Yeah, I get that, but why do we have to find out the day after pre-order that this is not a 2 nanometer chipset? Because that's what I was excited about. I like having the latest and greatest. That was one of the selling points for me. Now, maybe I'm the fool because Google obviously does not care about the best specs. They obviously are not trying to sell phones to tech nerds like myself. Because if they were, like Snapdragon, they would be, because when the latest Samsung Galaxy gets launched with the latest Snapdragon chipset, they're telling you all about the new powertrain. They're telling you, it's this, it's that, it can do this, it can do that, ray tracing, blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, whoa, order. With the Pixel, I'm like, what are we doing here? What is this? So look at this. So here we discussed the single core, multi-core scores, not great, the other day. And now we got GPU scores. Now, these don't look much different from previous Pixels, right? Let's see. Now, in the paragraph below the graphic here, I think I pulled this off of Reddit. It says the retail model, not a test device. So this is a retail unit. Geekbench 6 for the Google Pixel 11, housing the new Tensor G6 chip, appeared on Nano Review 2 hours ago, and the results are quite incredible. I don't know who... Incredible meaning good or incredible meaning like bad? Let's see here. Single core score, 2575. Similar to Samsung Exynos 2500 from last year, which was not saying much. Let's see here. Multi-core score, 6027, somewhere between Samsung Exynos 2400 and Exynos 2200, which is 4 years old. Let's see. OpenGL score, 6027, similar to Snapdragon 870. I'm going to repeat that. Multi-core score. Excuse me. I'm going to repeat that. OpenGL. So this is the GPU. OpenGL score. 6,027 points. Similar to Snapdragon 870 or Exynos 990 from 2019. That's 7 years ago. All this while using TSMC's world-leading 2 nanometer process node. Great job, Google. This person is clearly uneducated and what are they? Good job, Google. I hope they're trolling, because if they're serious, wow, no, that's freaking embarrassing. Google should be embarrassed to themselves. That's pretty freaking bad. Now, just to give you, let me tell you what my Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 does on, let's see, OpenGL, let's see, Geekbench. Now, I think this was done on Geekbench. Is this 6 or 7? So GPU, my device scores close to 30,000 points on OpenGL. OpenCL. I'm like, what the hell? He put OpenGL. Okay, so they clearly don't know what they're talking about. I was right. I was like, it's OpenCL, right? And then I said, I read OpenGL, and I'm like, in my head, I was like, that doesn't sound right. They clearly don't know what they're talking about. Look, those scores are not good. Those scores are embarrassing. And now it all makes sense. Now that we realize it's... yeah. Oh, boy. Mine scores... Mine are closer to 30,000 points. And this one got 6,000 points. There you go. Now, I'm not saying it's going to perform bad. I'm talking about the new Pixel 11 series. I'm not saying it's a shitty phone. I'm not saying, you can't play games. Or I'm not saying you can't edit a video, because clearly you can, but it won't edit videos as fast, render videos as fast as an iPhone, as a Samsung, as a OnePlus, as a Motorola Signature. It just won't. Now, it'll play your probably Tetris, right? It'll probably play Happy Birds. It just won't play your AAA title games with as many frame rates as an iPhone or a Samsung. It just won't. Now, I think we need to have the bigger discussion of, is this a $1,500 phone? I think that's what really needs. Okay, so look, Google is never going to have, I take ever as a strong word. 20 years from now, they could figure it out. But here in the near future, I'm talking in this year, next year, maybe 3 or 4 years, it is what it is. I think it's time after today or yesterday. I'm done expecting bigger leaps, bigger gains from this Tensor chip. I'm done. I'm over it. I think it is what it is. I think it's fair to say that these are a mid-range phone. And I've held back from saying that. Like, I really have. I swear to God, you can go back on my 2,000 videos. I know I have never considered or called a Pixel a mid-range phone until today. I think it's official. It's officially a mid-range phone. Now, it doesn't mean it's a bad phone. Again, it doesn't mean you're going to have a bad experience. If you're a Pixel user, I think, and you love using a Pixel, I think you're going to love the Pixel 11 series. I think it will be a good phone for you. But for me, as time goes on, I think I'm slowly splitting away from Google. You see, from the Pixel. You see what I'm saying? As time goes on, there's those hardcore Pixel lovers that all they're going to use is a Pixel, and that's fine. Everybody's different. I'm not hating on you. Please don't take today's stream or yesterday's show as a diss. It's not a diss to you as a Pixel user. I think it's just time to be honest and call it what it is. It's a mid-range phone. And at this point in time, I'm not looking to purchase a mid-range phone. Because, yeah, I've said this before, if you have blinders on and all you're just looking at is a Pixel device, all you use is a Pixel device, you've never used a Samsung phone, you've never used an iPhone, it's a great experience. But here's the problem. That's not the real world. The real world is we do have options, although they've gotten small as of right now, at least for US buyers, but we have options. That's just a fact. You can go out and buy an iPhone at the same price and do circles around a Pixel. You can go out and buy an S26 Ultra at $1,500 and it'll run circles around a Pixel. I'm sorry. Cameras aren't even that big of a difference now. Because in the past, Pixel could get away with this stuff kind of because they've had far and away the very best camera experience. Right? And that's just not the case now. It's just not. So what's the benefit of buying a Pixel? Now, again, it's probably preference. Like I mentioned before this, a lot of people don't like Samsung UI. And I get it. It's not for everybody. Some people don't like using iPhones like myself. Maybe they just feel comfortable with Pixel. Maybe that's why my dad just likes using a Pixel. It's just simple. It's just easy. He doesn't want settings and settings and settings. Maybe that's who Pixel is, their core base is for, is the non-techie people. Well, I don't see how anybody can buy a Pixel at full price. I think that is insane. Now, maybe that's why they've discounted these heavily right off of the bat. I've seen online a lot of people paying $406 for their Pixel 11 Pro. I think we paid what was the final total? $506, $500. And now that I think about it, it's about a $500 phone. It just is. Like, I'm not paying anything over $500-600 for these phones. It just is what it is. Sorry. And again, that's not a diss. That's just my opinion. And there, again, I hate like I have to feel like I have to defend myself here, but I know there's some people out there. And look, I've been a Team Pixel person my whole life, but as time goes on, I just feel like, there's a little wedge that's being stuck in there, and we're just splitting up over time. At least that's what it looks like for me. And I know there's a lot of users out there that are frustrated just like I am, because I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I mentioned yesterday, I wish they would still kind of work with Qualcomm while they develop Tensor, kind of like Samsung's developing Exynos, but they still lean on Qualcomm. Well, I don't know. I'm assuming Google is too far into their chip making process. Could they go to MediaTek and perhaps develop a chip for the Pixel 12 Pro, 12 Pro XL, and then put Tensor in the A series? I wish they would. In fact, I would buy one in a heartbeat if that were the case. Put the new MediaTek 9500 in, or whatever, 9600 in the Pixel 12 Pro. Whoa, that would be badass. But I think Google's not looking to do that. Like, I just think they're just not concerned with numbers. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm kind of at a loss for words. It's like, wow. Man, oh man.